America's AI action plan has arrived, and today I'm going to get into it. I haven't recorded an episode of What's Happening in a while, but I did find the need to produce this special edition because of what was just dropped by the White House a few hours ago. I'm not going to get into anything political, nothing about how ICE is basically the modern day Gestapo, but I am going to talk about this AI action plan, not to endorse it, just to attempt to decipher it. The 80-page document, I obviously didn't fully read. I rely on AI and podcasts like these to figure out what's going on. So let me give this a shot and go deep-ish. And if I've missed anything, which I'm sure I have, please let me know in the comments. And obviously, if you're ready to start building with AI, hit me up I'm Paul at 3advance.com. I will say this is as much for me as it is for you. If you're watching on LinkedIn, you're probably an entrepreneur, a business owner, and we got to know what's going on here. This AI action plan is less of a policy document, more of a call to action. And it really is an attempt, I think, for Trump and the US government to lay down what they want from this AI revolution. So instead of a policy, let's call it a declaration. So the document itself, AI action plan, is what it's called, but it's anything but bureaucratic. It opens by framing AI as a race. Similar to the space race, with the US needing to secure, and I quote, the unquestioned and unchallenged technological dominance. Love it or hate it, framing tells you how the government is thinking, that AI isn't just a tech trend, it's a national strategy, and it's urgent as, yeah. Anyway, the document itself is it's broken into three pillars: to accelerate innovation, build infrastructure, which is a new one, and obviously to lead globally. Each has implications for business owners like me and like you. The first one is regulation. This is contrary to how the EU works, and certainly very different than how things worked under the Biden administration. The plan makes it clear the government wants less regulation, not more. And you can see this as well in the big, beautiful bill that passed. It has put a cease on any and all state regulations on AI for the next 10 years. So like it or not, the federal government is in charge of how we're regulated with AI, and really now they're trying to tell us how we should be reacting to it and implementing our own policies at our own businesses. So, at high level, they've been reviewing agency policies that might slow down development, and now they're willing to start supporting startups and researchers, promoting open weight models, and reworking federal procurement to reward, and I quote, ideologically neutral models. So there's a little bit of Elon Musk's philosophy coming in there. Again, not going to get into the why and the what ifs, just trying to report on what's going on. It's obviously subjective, but they are intentionally stripping out things like DEI, climate language, and the word misinformation from federal AI frameworks. So, this has happened in the government so far, and this is very clear that they want AI to not just work for the United States as a country, but honestly as a force for a certain side of the aisle. Anyway, whatever your stance, it's important to realize it's not just about enabling innovation. It is also about shaping the moral and political context of AI systems, and that is one that obviously we should all look out for and think about that one a bit more. As a business owner, tech leader, it means momentum, expecting opportunity, but it's a very particular vision of innovation. It's up to everyone here to decide how they implement AI policy in their own organizations, as well as how they safely and responsibly implement AI, because that is certainly not at the forefront, and it is elsewhere. So, take guidelines. I think right now, even with things like accessibility, even if you're not in California, you're adhering to CISPA. If you're not in Europe, it's good to adhere to some of the GDPR and everything else. So I would say keep your mind on regulations, even though federal government are not going to enforce anything like they would have before. Double-edged or single-edged, but not going to take a side here. Anyway, this is a really interesting one. Second pillar is about infrastructure. So it's about building the physical backbone for AI, not just the software layer. And I think in previous years, more recently, the last 20 years, the United States has been about design and software, but not so much infrastructure or even further back manufacture. And I think that's where things are changing. The United States government wants more chips created here, obviously wants more data centers. Power grids was mentioned too, which I think we can all agree that needs some attention. So we can get behind that one. Anyway, here's what they want. They want to, again, it's permitting reform, speed up builds. Again, that's regulation dropped. Use of federal land for AI infrastructure. This one is always a sensitive topic. And then expansion of high security data centers, which is kind of presumed and assumed. National security is going to need to take use of this. And there's going to be obviously a lot of implications of that ongoing, I'm sure, in terms of personal privacy and security and all that kind of thing. One other interesting thing is they have called out workforce programs training electricians, HVAC techs, and these kind of trades that have been undervalued, I think, but are actually pushed directly. I think that's a good thing. It's obvious that it's necessary. But overall, there's a clear signal. AI is now a national scale industrial priority. And if we're to believe what this document leads us to believe, that means it will reshape everything from energy policy to education. For those of us in tech, this ties AI to supply chains, real estate, labor, different industries in ways we haven't fully reckoned with yet. Again, it's not just about cloud APIs, which is really my forte. It's about physical, political, and geopolitical implications. So it's certainly something to appreciate. Next up, government adoption and defense integration. This is probably an obvious one too. The government isn't just encouraging AI use across industries. It is pushing for dominance, and in particular, making sure that we, as in the United States, is at the forefront for security reasons as well as everything else. It's also all about standardizing AI usage across agencies. That means every federal employee could benefit from one of these modern models should have access. Now, there are security concerns for me when I hear that, because it's like federal employees using tools that are off the shelf and encourage them to skip and walk around regulations. There is some possible, either breaches or threats that could come from that. But that is the message. Adoption within the US government is important. And that also means it also relates to procurement channels to make adoption easier and faster. So any of you working in defense contracting, you know what it's like. Defense and even government contract, not just defense, but government contracting. It takes a long time to get through the system. They are suggesting that this is going to get faster. A lot of people would say for better. So there is a move to there's a move for the Department of Defense to launch proving grounds, they call it, I think, for autonomous systems and AI automations. So again, it's just a real direct push on government to start using AI. I think what's important is, like, philosophically, we've moved from this like pilot project of AI into a intentional, really scaled implementation of AI across the government, civilian, military agencies. And, till now, I think, except in those few situations where we've heard about CEOs of private companies really pushing and insisting on AIs, some which have walked them back again. This is a clear call to action for across the government to embrace. Okay, so if you're in the private sector like me, what's in this for you? What should you expect different than before? Okay, we'll talk about hiring, training, and then procurement for other organizations as well. So this will touch on grants, obviously procurement through the government, but also I think in private industries and maybe organizations like nonprofits that are obviously tied to government or specific government entities that need to be certified. So what should you be doing? So here are some of the things that I think are important for you as a leader or someone as an influencer within an organization or company right now. Again, this has been the message for a while. Get serious about adoption. There is a real gap. A lot of people are afraid to use AI. A lot of people are rightfully skeptical or downright just against AI. I believe leaders should be teaching and providing training on AI in absence of mandate. So there's a lot of mandated AI. I think that's not going to work. You're going to lose a lot of employees, whether maybe you want that to happen. But it's not about mandating. It's about training. It's about use case examples and explaining why. So adoption is super important. And, that's something that this is clearly calling out to the private sector as well. I will say that although it says to regulations are being pulled back, be very careful with compliance. And as always, ethical standards, privacy guidelines, and export laws, and what we're learning from other countries are really important. So as they shift, pay attention because things are changing. While also always, I would argue to hang on to the meaning behind regulations, and where it works, make it happen. Anyway, next one is literacy. AI is truly becoming foundational. All the kids are doing this. Us more mature folks need to be on our game too. It's easy to get started, but sometimes hard to know where to apply it in your business. Look to the people who are doing it, bring them in, use examples, explain why, talk about the safety, explain that you will truly be left behind, but responsibility and safety and threats, cyber threats are still a huge concern for every organization. But this is definitely of importance with people using AI and public models, and even just the more advanced technology used to phish and to scam, whatever else. But you probably you should be aware of all that. Anyway, the White House is saying not to wait for perfect use cases, and it's really interesting that it's the government. It's the government that are telling us to do this. They're telling us that the feds must lean into experimentation, sandbox R&D testing, but it's telling us to too, and we should start messy. Get stuck into tools like Lovable for creating prototypes or non-secure applications that might help. Everything from there to using some of the LLMs to improve processes and user experience. That's what we at 3 Advanced do all the time. So that sort of stuff, if you want to talk more, that's what you should reach out to me for. But either way, start small. Just start. There are people in your company that are invested and interested in this stuff. They will be the ones to ultimately help you get there. Overall, I would finish by saying AI is here to stay. The government are now actively pushing it. There will be incentives, financially and otherwise, for companies to move forward. But even beyond that, you need to realize that this huge ship is moving this direction. And whether you like it or not, we need to stay on top of this stuff. As a company who prides itself on doing good and working for the greater good and impact-driven organizations and startups, it's important for us to lead as well in using technology for the betterment of people and communities. And I will finish this by urging all of you to consume this document, understand what's happening, but also remember that the regulation was put there for a good reason. There's a lot to be learned for some of the things that are happening other places, and ultimately, overall, there is a large threat to AI in terms of our humanity. I personally believe it will be for the greater good of all, but it means embracing it. It means the humanists and the everyone else that's involved in the grassroots of helping people embraces these tools and philosophies too, because in essence they are now part of the story. So that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining me here. If you want to go to what'sappening.tech, we have a weekly newsletter that's an amazing place to start. It keeps you up to date with all the news in tech and AI for entrepreneurs, small businesses, those from all kinds of backgrounds. Check it out. That's what'sappening.tech. And check me out on LinkedIn. I'm Paul Murphy, 3 Advanced. Thank you for joining.